When a violent snowstorm hits Everest Base Camp, the entire mountain shuts down. Every expedition retreats to their tents, and the only lifeline keeping hundreds of climbers connected to the outside world is a steady stream of radio traffic. But at 2:17 in the morning, American emergency communications specialist Noah Bennett caught something that shouldn't have been there. It was a faint transmission, originating from a location where no expedition was officially registered. The voice on the radio didn't ask for help. Instead, it delivered a precise 8-second warning. They changed the coordinates. Don't trust the report. Before Noah could respond or lock on to the signal's exact origin, the line went dead. On a mountain where every permit, route, and movement is rigorously tracked, an unregistered transmission that suddenly vanishes is a dangerous liability. The next morning, Noah checked the official rescue logs, expecting a massive search operation. Instead, he found blank pages. 0 emergency calls were recorded, and no climbers were reported missing. When he dug into the central radio system's backend to pull the audio file, the 2:17 a.m. timestamp was gone. Someone with high-level administrative access had remotely purged the transmission. Heading out to inspect the main antenna tower, Noah found physical proof that he wasn't imagining things. Half buried in the fresh snow was a damaged GPS tracking device, its manufacturer logo deliberately scratched away. The threat escalated the moment he returned to his tent. An encrypted text message popped up on his personal laptop screen. "Forget the signal, or you'll lose your place on the mountain." System glitches don't send threats. Noah was looking at an active cover-up, and whoever was behind it was now focused on keeping him quiet. To figure out where that signal came from, Noah needed someone who understood the physical terrain as well as he understood the radio frequencies. He quietly brought in veteran climbing guide Maya Reed. They started by cross-referencing anomalous satellite pings with archived weather reports. Overlaying this data onto the known topography, they isolated a single coordinate positioned far off the standard trails. It mapped perfectly to an old, decommissioned emergency station. Noah and Maya hiked to the coordinates, forcing open a locked cabinet inside the abandoned shelter. Inside, they found a stack of printed expedition schedules, where the safe routes for every standard climbing team had been crossed out and shifted into high-risk weather zones. Stashed behind the schedules was an internal contract from a private media company. It detailed a massive payment to camp administrators in exchange for exclusive, uncrowded access to the safest route during the season's narrowest weather window. By systematically moving hundreds of climbers toward dangerous terrain, the administrators were clearing the safest paths to fulfill a secret, high-value filming contract. Before Noah could even photograph the documents, the abandoned station's heavy main breaker slammed shut. The lights died instantly, leaving them in absolute darkness. They scrambled back down the mountain in the dark, but when Noah reached his tent at base camp, the zipper was slashed and his laptop was missing. The intruder was fast, but they made a critical mistake in the rush. Dropped on the tent floor was an official mountain rescue badge. The name on the badge belonged to Elias Grant. He was a former expedition coordinator who had publicly complained about manipulated route data years earlier, right before vanishing from the climbing community entirely. Noah snapped the badge open, revealing a micro SD card glued inside the casing. The audio files on that chip confirmed why the radio transmission felt so strange. The 2:17 a.m. transmission was a trap designed to recruit an ally. Elias had broadcast a signal that only a communications specialist would recognize as an anomaly, creating a breadcrumb trail for Noah to follow. The next morning, Noah received a final text directing him to an old weather station in the lower valley. Knowing it could be an ambush, he and Maya made the trek anyway. Waiting by the perimeter fence was Elias Grant. He explained that his sudden disappearance years ago allowed him to safely compile evidence against the corrupt officials without interference. The records Elias provided contained the original, unedited authorization logs, explicitly linking the coordinate shifts to the signatures of the 3 administrators in charge. An accusation like this could ruin innocent guides. Noah and Maya spent the entire night cross-checking every signature, date, and coordinate shift to guarantee their target was accurate. Knowing a conspiracy exists doesn't fix it. To actually tear down a corrupt structure, you need airtight, verifiable proof that no lawyer or administrator can deny. Rather than handing the evidence to local administrators who might bury it, NOAA bypassed the camp entirely. He transmitted the verified data cache directly to an international board of safety experts. The resulting investigation hit base camp fast. The implicated officials were stripped of their authority, and the private media contracts were instantly voided. To prevent it from happening again, the governing board instituted mandatory public logs for all route alterations. They also launched a secure, open-channel reporting system, allowing any guide to flag suspicious directives without risking their career. Months later, NOAA returned to Everest to train a new generation of communications technicians. He taught them that keeping the mountain safe often requires choosing the difficult responsibility of speaking up, even when staying silent is much easier. Survival in extreme environments relies on equipment, but the safety of every person on the mountain depends on the integrity of the data they receive. Mount Everest is often viewed as the ultimate meritocracy, a place where recognition is earned through physical endurance and raw courage. When documentary producer Liam Carter arrived at base camp, he expected to film a standard story about the logistical triumphs of modern mountaineering. That focus changed when he received a sealed envelope containing this vintage photograph. A note inside claimed that one person in the image had their summit achievement stolen by another. Carter spotted a small geometric symbol carved into the handle of an ice axe. He realized the same mark appeared beside several high-profile summit records spanning 20 years. This timeline tracks 20 years of expedition archives. As Carter searched the digital records, he found that a single climber's name had been systematically deleted from every official report. After his computer was remotely disabled by an anonymous threat, Carter immediately understood the true scale of the discovery. He had found a system designed to curate history by deciding which individuals were allowed to be remembered. Historian Rachel Moore identified the carved symbol as the mark of a private group that once funded major expeditions. They didn't just provide gear, they controlled which climbers received the sponsorships necessary to build a career. Using numerical codes found on the border of the original photograph, Carter and Moore tracked a trail to an abandoned supply tent located on a disused high-altitude route. Inside the tent, they recovered a weatherproof recorder. It contained audio interviews with overlooked climbers who described a consistent pattern. Their technical work and successful summits were routinely credited to their influential expedition leaders. Carter wanted to release the recordings immediately to spark a public conversation. Moore disagreed, insisting that without complete cross-referenced evidence, the claims would be dismissed by the organizations involved. Their investigation was being monitored. A new note left outside the tent confirmed that someone at base camp was tracking their movements and knew exactly what they were looking for. This was a test of investigative discipline. To break through an institutional cover-up, they needed the kind of verification that could survive a public counterattack. Carter used a digital restoration tool to clear the ice from the obscured face in the original photograph. He identified Samuel Reed, a former coordinator who had disappeared from the climbing community decades earlier. Reed agreed to help, but only if Carter prioritized the dignity of the erased climbers over the sensationalism of the scandal. He wasn't interested in personal fame. He wanted the record set straight. Reed revealed that he had hidden the primary evidence years ago. It was currently sitting in plain sight inside a public exhibit at base camp. This schematic shows a concealed compartment beneath the grip of the historical ice axe. Inside, Carter found a memory card containing unedited summit footage and radio logs, data that could provide a precise timeline of the expeditions. When the exhibit director realized the footage had been found, he offered Carter a private deal to keep the story out of his documentary. Carter turned it down. The attempt to buy his silence confirmed the importance of the records. Liam was no longer just a filmmaker documenting a story. He had become a custodian of the mountain's actual history. An independent panel reviewed the findings. By aligning the timestamps from the radio logs and summit footage with archived meteorological data, the panel verified the specific movements of the overlooked climbers. The technical data provided the precision the interviews alone could not. The result was an immediate correction of the historical record. The official ledgers were updated to finally include the names that had been erased for 20 years. The correction forced a shift in the industry. Several organizations established new scholarships for climbers from overlooked communities, funded by the same groups that had once suppressed their achievements. Recognition was finally aligned with those who actually stood on the summit. The mountain became a symbol of what occurred, rather than a narrative maintained by influential sponsors. Reflecting on the investigation a year later, Carter noted that achievement loses its value when it is built on the active erasure of someone else's labor. Real achievement does not require stolen recognition. It earns respect through honesty, courage, and a commitment to a truth that no private group can control.